So a conic section, there's 4 different conic sections: a circle, parabola, ellipse, and a hyperbola. And these come about when you're intersecting, you're taking a plane and intersecting a cone. Okay, so in the first case, if it's parallel, you have a circle, and if it's going, if it's off of the cone over here and intersecting, it's a parabola. If it's going on both sides of the cone, you'll create an ellipse, and if it's perpendicular to the base of the cones, you'll get a hyperbola. So the first conic section we're going to look at is a parabola. So normally we've been doing parabolas that are centered about the y-axis. So these are on the y-axis, but we can also have parabolas that are on the x-axis. So the way I would look at it is, if you have y equals ax squared, then the parabola is going to be on the y-axis. If you have x equals ay squared, then the parabola is going to be on the x-axis. So a parabola opens up if your a is positive. It will open down if your a is negative, and if it's on the y-axis. Now if it's on the x-axis and it opens up, it's going to open up to the right. If that's on the x-axis and it's a is negative, so if you had a negative number right here, it's going to open up to the left. So a parabola is formed by taking what we call this focus, and if you take the shortest point, let's say I'm going to here. If I take the distance between here and here and the distance between here and here, it's going to make a parabola. If I do that all different parts of this line and this focal point, it's going to make a parabola. So that line is called the directrix. That point is called the focus. So if you notice, this is kind of messy, but the focus to the vertex is going to be the same distance as the distance from the vertex to the directrix. So this distance is C. So the focus is an ordered pair, 0, C. C is this distance, and the directrix in this case is going to be a horizontal line. So the directrix will be a horizontal line if your parabolas open up and down. The directrix is going to be a vertical line if your parabola is opening side to side. So the directrix is a vertical line, it's going to be x equals. If it's a horizontal line, it's going to be y equals. If the focus is on the y-axis, then you're going to have 0, C as your focus, or 0, negative C. But if it's on the x-axis, it's going to be C0 or negative C0. So I'm going to go on the next page and practice some problems here. Oh, actually, one more thing I need to add is that the relationship between A and C is that the absolute value of A, so the A is out front, is equal to 1 over 4C. I kind of don't pay attention so much to the absolute value as far as I try to think about C being negative or positive based on whether it's opening up or down. So I'll go over through that with some examples. So the first one, write an equation for the graph that is the set of all points on the plane that are equidistant from the point. What does this mean? Okay, this is the definition of a parabola. So this is just saying, okay, give me an equation of a parabola that has a focus at 0, 1. So I always draw sketches for these. And the line, this would be your directrix at y equals negative 1. So if this is our vertex right here, if we know this is 0, 1, then this distance is 1. So that means that our C is 1. I also can tell that this parabola is opening up because the focus is always inside the parabola. It's on the opposite side of the directrix. So if C equals 1, I'm going to use this equation, A equals 1 over 4C. So this means that A equals 1/4. So because this parabola is going up and down, because our directrix is side to side, then I know that this is going to be y equals. Okay, so if it's going up and down, up or down, it's going to be y equals. and my a is 1/4, and it's going to be positive 1/4 because I know my parabola is open up. So this is going to be a equals 1/4 x squared. So that's my equation. Okay, second one, write an equation for a parabola with vertex at the origin and a focus at 0, -7. So I'm going to draw a sketch. Like I said, my vertex is at the origin, but my focus is at 0, -7. So right here I can tell if my focus is right here, my parabola must be opening down. So, because my focus is always inside it. So it's opening down. So this keys me in at it's going to be y equals. And it's going to be a negative because it's opening down. So if my c is 7, because this is 0, 7, I'm going to use the equation a equals 1/4c. So a equals 1/28. But I know this a is opening down. This parabola is opening down, so it's going to be -1/28 x squared. Okay, number 3, write an equation for the graph that is a set of all points on a plane that are equidistant. Okay, so this just means write an equation for the parabola. So this means give me a parabola, because that's the definition of a parabola. So again, I'm going to draw a sketch. So my focus is at 2, 0, and my directrix is at x equals -2. So that tells me that my parabola needs to be opening this way. My c is 2. So if it's opening to the right, it's going to be x equals, and my a is going to be positive. So I'm going to find out my a by doing a equals 1/4c, where c is 2. So it's going to be positive 1/8 y squared, because it's opening to the right. Okay, number 4, write an equation of a parabola with the vertex at the origin, and the focus is at 1/2, 0. So I go to focus is 1/2, 0. Vertex is at the origin. This tells me it has to be opening to the right. So again, it's going to be x equals, and then I'm going to do a equals 1/4 times c. c is 1/2. So a equals 1/2, because 4 times 1/2 is 2. So then I'm going to have a positive a equals, 4 times 1/2, yeah, that's right. X equals positive 1/2 y squared. And then number 5, given this equation, so now I'm given the equation, find the parabola's focus and find the equation of the directrix. So I'm going to draw a little sketch. So it has to be crossing through the origin, because it doesn't have a y-intercept, and it's going to open up. So in this case, I have to find the focus and the directrix. So I know that the focus is on this y-axis. So what I'm going to do is I need to use this a. So a is 1/8, and set that equal to 1/4c. Because remember, I'm using the equation a equals 1/4c. So I have my a as 1/8. This means that c has to be 2. So if the distance is 2, it means that this is going to be 2 on the y-axis, and then the directrix is going to be 2 units away. So the focus has to be at 0, 2, and the directrix has to be at y equals -2. Okay, number 6, find the domain and range of this parabola. So domain is, we have this parabola that's opening to the left because it's x equals a negative number, and it's on the origin for the vertex. So your domain is going to be all possible values for x. So I'm going from left and right, I'm going all from -infinity to 0 and including 0. Or you could write it as x is less than or equal to 0. Some people will write it as -infinity to 0 and including 0. And then for your range, the parabola is going infinitely up and down. So the range is going to be all real numbers. Or if you want to write an interval notation, it's going to be negative infinity to infinity. Okay, fill in this table. So I feel like if you can do this, then you're good. You understand what's going on. So I'm going to draw a sketch for these again. So if y equals 4x squared, it's going to be opening up. It's going to help me to write the a value, which is 4, because then I'm going to use the c is going to be, remember we're going to use a equals 1 over 4c. So this is going to be 4 equals 1 over 4c. So if I multiply both sides by 4c, I'm going to get 16c equals 1. So c is 1/16. So I'm going to use that 1/16 for the focus and directrix. So that means that right here is my focus, so it's going to be at 0 1/16. And my directrix is going to be a horizontal line at y equals negative 1/16. And then the second one, the focus is at 5 0. So, and we already know the vertex is at 0 0. So this parabola has to be opening to the right. So my c value is 5. My a value is 1 over 4c, so it's going to be 1 over 20. So I can do my equation, because it's going to the right, it's going to be x equals, so what is x equal? Well, it equals a y squared. So a is 1/20, and then it's y squared. And the last thing I didn't do yet is the directrix. So the directrix is this vertical line, because it's vertical if the parabola is going left and right. And if this distance right here is 5, then this vertical line must be x equals negative 5. Okay, third one, if y equals 2 is my directrix. This must mean that the parabola is going to open down. So my c value is 2, which makes my a value 1 over 8. My focus must be 0 negative 2, because it's down on the y-axis. And my equation is going to be y equals, because the parabola is opening downward, and it's opening down, so it's going to be negative. So it's going to be negative 1/8 x squared. And then the last one, it must be a parabola that's opening to the left. So a is negative 1 over 24. And then c, we're going to do a equals 1 over 4c. So negative 1/24 equals 1 over 4c. So c has to be 6. Or negative 6. It really doesn't make a difference to me as long as I'm answering these directrix and focus problems right. So, and this actually could be positive if you wanted to, because we're just using the absolute value of a, which is 1/24, to figure out our c. So, if this is my parabola right here, I know that we have the c is 6. So the directrix has to be at x equals positive 6, and the focus is on the left-hand side, so it's negative 6 0.